We're back with another reading wrap-up. Welcome to my channel if you're new here. My name is Hannah and we are going to be going over all of the books that I read in May, which is very exciting because we are officially now pretty much in summer and we are officially on my birthday month, so I'm excited for this. I'm also super excited because this was my second month in a row actually completing my entire physical TBR. I don't think I'd mentioned it in April, but I did make it through all of those books as well, so you know, like, props to me because that doesn't really happen very often, but you know, we're on a streak now, so we have to continue it at this point, which isn't going to be possible because I have 30 books in my June TBR. When we get back to my normal size TBRs, we will continue it. Anyway, that is not what you're here for. Let's get into the books. I start with my DNFs and work my way up in ascending order through all of the books that I've read, so we'll try to keep the DNF ones short, that way we get to some of the actual good ones that you guys might care a little bit more about. So I had 3 DNFs for May. The first one is The Couple in the Cabin. This is about a woman who realizes that her husband is cheating on her and locks him and his mistress in this cabin, and I guess he's supposed to be plotting some kind of revenge. I only made it 2 chapters into this, if I'm being completely honest. I hated the way that this was written. It was just so poorly done, and you learned so much about things that you really didn't care about that weren't going to tie back into anything. Like, a car ride took an entire chapter just with her internal monologue, and it was really boring. Yeah, and I knew I wasn't going to be able to make it through an entire book like that. Then we had The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. I was bored reading this too, which is surprising because I loved the movie and I really expected to love this as well, but it just wasn't hitting for me. I'm obviously not the target audience, but I still kind of thought that nostalgia factor would be there, that girlhood factor, and it just wasn't giving that, which is very disappointing. I really had high hopes for that. And then lastly, for my DNFs, we have Buzzkill. I would never have bought this had it not been sent to me in a subscription box. This is just not my style of book, so honestly I'm not surprised that I didn't really enjoy this. It's about a young girl who is like a hacker, very like socially awkward, doesn't have a lot of friends, ends up meeting this person, I think online, or maybe in person, meeting in cyberspace, but they eventually combine their passions to conceive a brainchild named Buzz, which is a baby AI. Just had a lot of info in here that I didn't care about. Also wasn't particularly a fan of the writing style in here. So yeah, I think I gave this about 50 pages and then went, no, I'm just not enjoying picking that up, so goodbye. Then we have my 1-star read for the month, and that's going to be The Twin by Natasha Preston. This was almost 2 stars. There was a small part in here that surprised me, and then the ending showed up, and I hated the ending. Couldn't stand it. There was zero sort of redemption for the story, for the female character, and I wanted that. I needed that because like I wasn't really getting a lot of anything else. This is like the typical setup where there's one good twin and there was one evil twin, and when the evil twin's mother passes away, she ends up moving in with the other twin and their father. They had been separated when the parents divorced, and now she's kind of like ruining the good twin's life. And it was just so stereotypical. I kind of knew where everything was going. Like I said, there was really only one thing that surprised me, and then the ending ruined that for me. So that was why that was a 1-star instead of a 2-star. Then we do have a couple in the 2-star categories. We have a 2.5 with Matched. This is a YA dystopian trilogy set in a society where they control everything for everybody. What you eat, when you're allowed to eat, what your social activities are, who you end up getting married to, what your job is, and nobody really pushes back at all in this, which is odd. Like most dystopians, you end up seeing some sort of resistance pretty early on, and then the main character starts aligning herself with that. This, everybody's very happy. It's idyllic. You don't see any of that negative side. You don't see like the outcasts of society per se. And the only reason that this female character ends up kind of questioning what's going on is because when she sees the screen that shows who she is matched with to be married, it's her best friend, and then it also briefly flashes another person's picture. She starts kind of wondering what would life be like if she was with that other person. I think maybe if I was younger, I would have bought into the romance for this a little bit more. It just felt very manufactured, only because she saw a glimpse of him. Otherwise, I don't think she would ever really considered this. And you don't really get a lot of world building in here, which I was desperately craving. Then for my other 2-star read, we have Catch-22. This is like 2.5. I'm trying to be generous with this. This, I will acknowledge, is probably really heavy hitting for people that enjoy this writing style. I just didn't. It's very like satirical, very absurdist, and it's meant to highlight the horrors of war and the mental tragedy and effects that can come from being placed in war, and then the terrible way that men are treated and the way that they respond to it. And it's pretty much following a fighter pilot and his platoon, I guess you would call it, in World War II, and he's desperately trying to go home. He's trying to reach the amount of missions that he needs to reach in order to be done, but their general keeps raising the amount of missions that they have to fly in order to leave, and he is slowly going more and more crazy in response to this. I can understand that, but like I said, the craziness, everybody is like that. There is no, like, quote-unquote normal character in here, and it's portrayed in absurd ways that maybe it's just a little bit over the top, like we went a little too heavy-handed with it. I also could not stand the way that this man talked about women. There were zero depictions of females that was even remotely nice. They were pretty much all objects to be used, to be grabbed, to be touched, to be slept with, and it was disturbing the way that he talked about them, and I just couldn't get behind that. So yeah, I was a little disappointed about that one because my boyfriend loves that book and I was really hoping that I would love that book, but you know, everybody has different opinions. Then we're gonna get into my 3-star stack. This is my largest stack, which is pretty normal for me because 3-star is like a nice middle ground. It's one that I enjoyed reading, I would most likely recommend to people, and yeah, most books tend to fall in that category. So we have Cain's Jawbone is my first one. Honestly, I didn't know where to put this because it's hard to rate. This is a collection of 100 small segments of a story. They are all placed out of order, and then the whole point is this is a puzzle and you're supposed to put them back in order. I read through it just to kind of get an idea of what the story looks like, what the setup for the story would be. That way I can go in later, maybe with my boyfriend on like a date night, cut out all of these pages and to actually try to rearrange them together. I think that'd be fun. So obviously I don't know how the plot goes for this. I'm giving it a 3-star rating just because I liked the idea, the concept of this book. I think that's kind of fun. Then we have a 3.5-star read, which is King of Wrath by Ana Huang. This is a billionaire romance, and I did not expect to like this. I don't typically like billionaire romances. I feel like they just throw their money around and expect every reader to love them, and there's nothing else behind it, no substance behind it. I'll admit, the beginning of this, I was a little bit concerned. I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of the romance development between the two of them, probably because it is an arranged marriage between a young woman whose family is in the elite I think in New York. I think they're in New York, but they're like new elite. They're new money, and that comes, they don't get quite as much privilege when they're not old money. So her father decides to marry her off to a billionaire CEO named Dante Russo. He does not want to be with anybody ever, so he treats her accordingly. He's not very kind to her. Eventually, like I said, a romance does start developing, and I think what really sold it for me is actually the third act conflict in here. I love a man who grovels, and Ana Huang had him do it so well. You actually just get to see such a cute, soft side of him that really redeemed his character for me and really redeemed their romance and everything. So I am actually very happy that I read that. Then for another romance, we had The Frontrunner by Elsie Silver. This is also a 3.5-star read. This is the third book in the Gold Rush Ranch series. I didn't realize that. I had it out of order and picked this thinking it was the first one. I was like, you know what? They're interconnected standalones. It's not a big deal to read them out of order. So like, whatever, we're just gonna go into this one. This one follows the owner of a ranch who it's kind of new to it. He bought the ranch because of something that his mom wanted him to do, and now he's kind of into horse racing. And then the female main character, she is the veterinarian for him and kind of his competition ranch, and the other ranch does not get along with him. They end up crossing paths because they're trying to save this baby horse whose mother had died, and now they need to outsource for like a surrogate mother for him. So that's kind of how these two end up spending a lot of time together. I thought this was cute. I love Elsie Silver's writing. I love her cowboy romances. They just, I don't know, they just make me smile and they make me happy, and that's all I really want when I read these. So yeah, that one gave that. Then we have, let's see, I actually have 2 copies of this. We have Devious Obsession. I got the Mystic Book Box version in my subscription box, and I didn't obviously want to ruin that one, so I did pick up the indie copies, which I really like these as well. I love the colors of these. These are dark hockey romances. This is the second one in the series, and it's following a sort of like a step-sibling trope where they met one night at a party, they hooked up, had that one night together, and then they find out that their families are getting married, like, or their parents are getting married. The main male character, Steele, is very angry about this, and he decides to take this out on the female main character, but he's already obsessed with her and wants to be with her in more than just like a tormenting her sort of way, so you get that tension throughout. quite frankly, like, the main male characters in this book and the first one, like, they're just throwing temper tantrums for no good reason. Like, the reason that they hate the female characters is a little ridiculous, but there's something about these that I really enjoy the writing and stuff. This was only a 3-star. The other one was a 4-star. I just felt like if we had given some information reveals earlier on in the book, I could have understood Steele a lot more and his motivation and his attitude towards this new marriage between his dad and somebody else, and just, yeah, the way he handled a lot of different things. But I do enjoy these. I feel like for a dark romance, she handles consent very well and handles the exploration of kind of what people are into very well, so I appreciate that a lot. Then we have a completely different direction for a romance. We have the Strawberry Patch Pancake House. This is just a cutesy, fun time to read. Like, there is really not a lot of substance to these. You know that going in. They just make you smile, and they fit the season really well. So I read this in spring because I thought it gave spring. I wasn't entirely sure, but like, it looks like it anyway. And this is about a man who moves back to Dream Harbor because he finds out that he's actually a father, and that the mother of his child has passed away, and somebody's finally telling him, hey, you have a child. So he's moved there to try to see if he can fill this role for her and give her a good life. He starts working at the local diner because he is a Michelin star chef in Paris, and it's quite the adjustment for him doing all of these things. The female main character is the nanny that he hires to help him because he has no idea how to be a father. My favorite part about this was watching him learn how to be a father to his child Olive and just see them grow closer to each other. It was adorable, so heartwarming, so heartfelt. So yeah, did really enjoy this. It made me smile quite a lot. Then we have Broken Fae. I randomly decided I needed to try to work my way through more of the Ruthless Boys of the Zodiac series. This is the fourth book? Yeah, fourth book. We've dragged it too long at this point. I just feel like we lost the plot somewhere after book 2, and it just became more about the romance than this mystery that she's trying to solve. The main female character went to Aurora Academy because her brother mysteriously died. Everybody says it was an overdose. She's convinced that somebody killed him and that the people responsible for his death are the school. So she goes to try to solve this. You get introduced to like this really weird cult, and then also the kings of the school. There's 4 of them, I think, 5 of them, and it's kind of a why choose romance with all of them. Like I said, by the time we hit book 3, it really felt like we went off the rails and started caring much more about the why choose aspect. She kind of stops looking into this death, and actually the guys are looking into it more than her. It's just weird how it went. So it was only a 3-star read. I'm really looking forward to getting to the last book and kind of putting that series behind me, going back into the Zodiac Academy series. I'm hoping the last book redeems it for me, but we'll see. Then we have one that is like a questionable 3-star, and that's Wild Reverence. I just really had high hopes for this. It's the prequel novel to the Divine Rivals duology, and this just felt like it wasn't giving what the Divine Rivals duology was. And I was really trying to go into it not comparing it to that. I wanted to look at it as its own standalone novel, but it was really hard to do. Like, it even felt like it was just missing some of the whimsical quality of Rebecca Ross's normal writing style, and that was disappointing. I felt like we took way too long to be able to settle into a narrative in here because you're following her as she's growing up, and taking that long to settle into something meant that we weren't getting a lot of that beautiful world building that I've come to recognize for Rebecca Ross. So that's why that was only a 3-star. It was, like I said, it was a little disappointing. Moving into our 4-star reads, we have Ordeal by Innocence by Agatha Christie. This one's just really unique. It's about this murder that happens, and a young man was found guilty of it, and he actually dies in prison, and somebody shows up going, hey, I know that he passed away and this is all kind of said and done, but I was actually his alibi for that night, and I didn't realize that anybody was looking for me, and yeah, he's not responsible for this death. So then they're reopening this investigation, and all of the people that were in the home the night of the murder start individually kind of going to each other going, hey, like, what do you think about this? And well, this is what I was doing. They're kind of trying to let everybody know why they weren't responsible for it. They're all kind of arguing for their own innocence, and just seeing that and the way the story wrapped up was really masterfully done when I read that. Then we have a 4.5-star read, which was a stage set for villains. This was, oh my god, I don't even know how to begin explaining this book. It was one of the most unique concepts that I've ever seen in a fantasy book. It follows a young woman named Ribbon, and she lives in this world where there's no color, there's no music, there's no songs, dancing, stories, anything like that, and it's because they're some of it has just been kind of stripped away. Nobody really knows why, but then they don't tell stories, they don't sing songs and stuff because her society believes that all of those things are lies, and the only people that are really allowed to utilize any of them are the players, and they live in this magical playhouse that can travel from place to place, and everybody thinks that they're kind of maybe descendants of gods or they've been blessed by the gods because they all have these powers. But Ribbon's area of the city of society is terrified of the players. They're not supposed to go around them. She is sick as a result of like an incident with a player when she was younger, and she thinks that the only way that she can heal herself is to go to this playhouse. She ends up getting enrolled in this casting call that they're doing, which is an open call for people to audition to take the place of one of the main players, and with it take their immortality and their powers. So they're pretty much auditioning for that main person to die so that they can take their place, which is wild. It really speaks very heavily to the sense of ego, the sense of power, what people are willing to do for power, knowing that they're going to put themselves in a position where eventually they would be the person that would be the center of this casting call and eventually die. It talks so heavily about art and the way that we interact with art and allow it to affect our community and affect us as people and individuals, and what people might throw into their art when they're one of like the actors or what have you, the artists. The direction that this went was insane. Like I applaud her so much. She's one of those authors where I sit back and I look and I'm like, how did your brain come up with this? Because I'm jealous. I wish my brain could come up with a concept like this. You will spend a decent amount at the beginning of the book frustrated with the main female character. Eventually that gets explained. You understand why she does some of the things that she does, acts the way that she does, and there are other little things throughout it that you're like, this doesn't make sense. Why doesn't this make sense? Like, it was here and gone. It makes sense by the end of it. Trust me, the payoff in this one is worth it. I know that people say that a lot, but like, all of it is intentionally done. It's not like you just ignore it and forget it because the end's good. Like, it all ties in and makes perfect sense. So yeah, fantastic 4.5-star read. I'm so excited to see what she comes up with next because that was her debut novel. So like, if that was her debut, I can't wait. It's gonna be fantastic. Then getting into my favorite stack of the month, we have my 5-star reads. I have 4, which is pretty decent. I'm excited about that. The first one we have is The Silver Blood Promise by James Logan. This is a debut novel as well, and according to his acknowledgements, he actually published his first novel at, I think, 40 years old, which is insane. I feel like anymore you hear debut novelists are very young, and I love that he worked so hard for so much of his life and is finally like seeing the rewards for that. So yeah, anyway. This was sold to me as like an Indiana Jones inspired fantasy, and I can definitely see the vibes of that. This follows a young man whose father had passed away. He found out that he was murdered. They had never been really close. They were estranged after something happened while the young man was at school, and like he hadn't seen him in a really long time. And then he finds out that he's murdered, and he has left this note with his name, the name of a town or city, and then an unknown name. So he goes, you know what? We're gonna go see what this connects to, and there's a chance that it connects to this old ancient civilization, like this people group that has been lost for a while that his father was obsessed with, and he was obsessed with finding their artifacts and learning more about them. So Lucan goes to try to figure out some answers, and he ends up finding himself in just this whirlwind of craziness that is happening in the city he travels to, and that original quest ends up turning into so much more. I really did get heavy Indiana Jones vibes, some Tomb Raider vibes because of what happens with her father and trying to solve those mystery. I was here for it. I loved it. I really couldn't fault much at all in this. There's a little bit of like a found family in here as well because of some of the characters that he comes to meet, and they agree to help him solve this mystery. I felt like the conclusion wrapped up all of the new drama that he caught himself in really well, but sets up the story for the second one where we're still trying to figure out what happened with his father in a really, really good way. So yeah, I was thinking about it, I was like, you know what? I can't fault anything in this. I really love reading this, so like, yeah, it had to be a 5-star read. Then, my most recent finish, we have Dark Age by Pierce Brown. This is the 5th book in the Red Rising saga. The second book in like the second arc. I can't even begin to talk about anything in here that wouldn't give away other plot lines, but holy crap, this one goes off the rails. It is traumatic. It's gory, it's brutal, it's deceptive. It really, really touches on how dark war can be and how misguided different people can be, and I just felt so torn about so many different people's decisions and their logic. There's no purely good character in here. Everybody is morally gray, morally black, some of them, but you understand why they're doing it. My jaw was on the floor so much while reading this. Quite frankly, it's rough. It's rough. There really doesn't feel like there's any happiness in this book, I'll be honest, but I can't give it less than a 5-star because of all of the ways that it just ripped me apart while reading it, and the way that Pierce Brown works the plot together. Like, there are so many moving pieces at this point in the story and different characters, and somehow he manages to weave them together really well still. It's quite frankly insane. Then we have The Winners by Fredrik Backman. This is the 3rd book in the Beartown series. I was obsessed with everything about these books and the way that this world connects together throughout the trilogy, and how some of what you talked about in the first book you would never think would lead to the end of this. Like, the way that he wraps it up, it's telling a story that you didn't expect it to be telling, and I loved that. He's just such a masterful storyteller about the human experience and the duality of human nature and our choices and our motivations and the way that small towns interact with each other. I really, really love these books, and I can't wait to read more of his writing. Then my last 5-star read, we had The Rights of Starling. This is the 2nd book to Shield of Sparrows. I could not get over this book when I was reading it. Obviously, I can't speak too much about this one because it's the 2nd book, but I feel like we took the 1st book and just ran with it and did so many crazy things to expand this world. I feel like she expanded it in a really unique way, where the 2nd POV in here ties in such a unique way that I've never seen before, and it actually took me a really long time to realize what was going on with it, but once I did, I was like, oh my, I'm obsessed with this. Like, the way that 2nd plot and POV goes to help further the original narrative. It's a beautiful world that she's creating. I love the romance in here. I love the interesting creatures that you get in here, where they're kind of abominations of regular animals. Like, they're much bigger, they're much more aggressive, and kind of expands on the lore for those. I don't know how to say anything without giving stuff away, so I'm gonna stop now. But yeah, I really, really loved that book. Really loved it. So I am notoriously terrible about remembering the books that I didn't read, like, don't have physically, so we're gonna check those really quick. I don't even bother putting them in the categories anymore just because I end up forgetting. So I also read Fragile Sanctuary. This was like a 3-star read. It's the 1st book in the Sparrowfall series. I've seen everybody raving about Catherine Cowell's romantic suspense books, and I really wanted to see whether or not I would enjoy them. I enjoyed the romance in here. I enjoyed the suspense element as well. It just felt like once we got to the end and the suspense element kind of wrapped up a little bit, it felt like it was too gimmicky almost. It was a way that I'm like, this is not realistic. Like, this is a 1 in a billion chance that this is how things would work out in real world, and it just felt too unrealistic to me, but I did enjoy the rest of the romance, so I do think that I would continue reading through. The setup for this one is that, like, the main female character had lost her family to a horrific incident when she was younger, and she is now trying to sort of put back the pieces of her life a little bit, like 10, 15 years later, and make peace with some of what had happened. The main male character is very anti-relationships, friendships, romantic relationships, anything that he gets attached because he's worried about losing people. He's put in the path of the main female character, and of course a romance develops despite him not wanting one to. So that one was very, very cute. I did enjoy it. The only other one that I don't have a physical copy of is Winter, which is the last book in the Lunar Chronicle series. I can't remember when I decided to DNF this. It was either at the end of April or the beginning of May. I just was really bored reading this. I had really high hopes. I enjoyed the first book a lot, and then the 2nd and 3rd were kind of mid for me. I was hoping the 4th would bring it back around, but that was just not the case. I was trudging through it and really not looking forward to picking it up whenever I did. So I decided, you know what, we're calling this. I'm just not interested anymore. So I don't think I talked about that in last month's wrap up, so I figured we would put that in here just to explain kind of what happened with that series. Not that anybody remembers that I was reading it. But anyway, those are all the books that I have to talk about for May. It was a pretty good reading month. I'm decently happy with it. And I'm hoping that I'm going to have a lot more in the 5-star category for June, because that's kind of the goal for the month, to see how many I can get for my birthday month. So thank you so much for watching if you made it this far in the video, and I will hopefully see you in another one very soon. Bye!